Good afternoon, everyone. This is Andrew Kimmons with Kimmons Toolworks. Today, I have a pretty interesting video for everyone. First off, I have a new product. I don't know if it's a new product necessarily. It's something I wanted to make for myself that I really wanted. So I made it, and I think it's pretty awesome, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But the point of the video here is how I test my blades. I have a very unique process for testing my blades after they're heat treated, finished. A lot of times for blade tests, I will pick one out of each heat treat batch, or possibly two sometimes, and I'll grind the primary bevel, hone it, and I'll try them out before they go into handles. That way, I save myself some time. If I have something defective from heat treatment, I don't have to throw away a handle and an end cap and all that stuff too. So in the long run, it saves me quite a bit of time. But I'm going to share with everyone my process of blade testing. My process of blade testing is kind of weird, a little bit unique, and it's developed over time from just a number of reasons. I don't test by cutting wood, and I think a lot of people are surprised by the fact that I don't test chisel blades cutting wood. And I reached that point because it's not very efficient to sit there and cut a piece of wood over and 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 over when I can duplicate that cutting harder materials. Obviously, it goes without saying, the edge retention of my tools is pretty good to be able to do that. I used to test in really hard woods, and then I started testing in stabilized woods, and now I don't. I test them by pretty much pairing 6061 T6 aircraft aluminum, and doing that kind of still a lot of times over and over and over and over and over. But the reason why is because when the blade is in a cut like that and you have torsional force in there on the edge, if you're going to have any fragility to the edge, any chipping, any breaking, anything like that, it's going to happen in aluminum, and it's not usually going to happen in wood. You're not putting that intense localized torsional stress right on the apex. So needless to say, cutting in aluminum the ways that I do, it puts way more stress on the blade than just cutting a piece of wood. Now, I do oftentimes cut in wood just to check like peak sharpness, the way that it cuts through the wood. I'll do tests like that for cut quality. But when it comes to edge retention and toughness, it's in aluminum. And I'm going to go ahead and show everyone what I made today. It took me, I was stabilizing some wood, and I kind of hit a point of hang up where I've got to start machining some blades tomorrow. I'm waiting on material to get here. I'm trying to stabilize some handles, so I had a little bit of downtime for once. And in my downtime, straight up, I don't waste my downtime. I'm always doing something. And what I did is, there's something unique that I wanted. I really wanted a good quality, robust scraper with, a thick blade that was more like a blade steel rather than all the super soft ones on the market. Because, I have a lot of scrapers, and I want them to really hold an edge, and none of them do. They're just super soft, super gummy steel. And for stuff like, if you're scraping glue or doing, housing in the house, you're doing a project or something like that, it's really nice to have just something tough and durable to just get at it. So I also wanted it to be a 2-inch size, and I wanted it to be short and stubby. So I made myself kind of a stubby 2-inch scraper. And I don't know if this is something that I'll start doing for other people. We'll see if people want it. I kind of just planned on doing it for myself, but it may be such a useful tool that maybe people want it. And it's something that I can do for pretty cheap as well. So it might be a great way for people to maybe just get something because they want it. But anyway, without further ado, this is what I made myself. And it's just a 2-inch scraper, and it's done like knife scales. You can see it pretty well right there. And I did this with a piece of Cerakote, actually, that has the sapwood in it. And I thought that was really cool. and you can see right there that it's assembled a lot like knife scales, and I put brass in there as well, just as an accent, and you see it's rounded up here just for ergonomics. I didn't finish this particular blade super well because it's just one of mine, and I spend a lot more time with the finish on customer tools than I do my own. I did lap it a little bit just because, I like to be able to sharpen it. So we're going to test this out right now and make sure that it cuts up to spec. Now, with these scrapers, these aren't the normal 63 Rockwell, they're 62. I did this a little bit softer just because of the fact that its inherent nature requires that, because you get up to 63 Rockwell, you are trading off pretty much, you're adding wear resistance, but you're removing toughness. And I wanted to remove a little wear resistance and add a little more toughness. So by backing it off just 1 point on the Rockwell scale, that's what I get. Now this won't have the peak edge retention as far as, abrasion resistance and cutting wood. It's not going to have that kind of longevity in this blade. But this one will perform a little bit better for, harder materials, hacking at something, doing whatever. It'll still take a very, very sharp edge. I mean, I have a razor sharp edge on this. You can see it's just I honed it to the same as my, mortise chisels. It's a 35 and a 30. So we're going to test this out right here. And I'm going to pan the camera down. And when I'm cutting the aluminum, I use oil. And I use oil because what happens when you're cutting a piece of aluminum with a blade, like a blade that really is not made for cutting aluminum or anything else, aluminum's gummy almost. So what'll happen is it'll gum onto the edge, and you can see it. You can look and see gumminess just on the very apex of the edge, and you'll check it and it'll seem like it's dull, but it's not. It's just gummed over. It has like a cap of gummy aluminum on it. So by using oil, it prevents that from gumming up, and it lets me evaluate the edge a little bit better. Now, I'm going to go ahead and pan down, and I'll show you here. This is one of the many blanks that I have laying around here of my tests. I have a bunch of these things where I go to town and I hack at it with chisels, and that's 6061 T6 aircraft aluminum. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to pan the camera down right here to what I'm doing on the bench. In my vise right here, I have a piece of aluminum. This is an 1/8 inch thick piece of 6061 T6. Here's the scraper, the new little dude. And we're going to go ahead and put just a tidbit of oil on there. I don't want to drench my bench. I don't like to get oil all over this bench, but it happens. And we're just going to start paring away. You can see how this would end up being a much, much better test for the longevity of an edge than a piece of wood, because you very rarely will need to push this hard on a piece of wood. So it really stresses the crap out of the blade. And I put a little twist in there like that, and you can see it kind of makes it curly cute, and that really, really stresses the edge out. Chopping my bench up here. Do some palm wax. I can sit here doing this literally all day. This thing won't dull. I mean, it'll dull. Anything will dull, but it's not gonna dull significantly just sitting here chopping away at this. I could literally cut this entire piece away with this blade, I bet. I know this probably seems like kind of a weird process to a lot of people, but it's efficient, and it's a good way to test the durability and the toughness of an edge. Take some deep cuts, deep chunks out of there. And as you can tell, this is an unusual I mean, for most things on the market, not for my tools. This is a very normal level of edge retention for my tools, but for most things, this would be considered an unusually good amount of edge retention. But it's because I want my tools to cut well. I want my own tools to cut well. I want everybody else's tools to cut well. I'll probably just call it quits here soon. And it has nothing to do with the performance of it. It's still cutting just like it was at the start, and it should. All right, we did some cutting right there. You can see it doesn't look like we have a whole lot of gumming on it. Might have a little bit. So just to make sure I don't have any gummy on there. Yeah, I don't see anything too gummy on there. There's a little couple pieces of gumminess on it, but that's not too bad. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this thing's still shaved here. I mean, I might as well try it. Got nothing to lose. We'll see. See if it cuts hair still. Yeah. Now that is edge retention. You can see hair on the blade still. I have very dry skin today. It's very dry. That's edge retention. To sit there and hack at metal and still have edge retention, that's not too bad. So, like I said, a lot of times I can sit there and I can do that all day and it's still gonna cut hair. And that's really why I started making tools to begin with. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. I think a lot of people, when they see them online, they always say, oh yeah, well, they're pretty, but how do they cut? Well, that's the whole point. Like, I didn't make tools because I want them to be just pretty. I started making tools because I wanted the performance. The prettiness came with experience, and it came with a lot of effort, and it came with a lot of customer collaboration. You know, I never really intended to start doing chisels with exotic woods. My first chisels were in ash. That's all I was doing to start. It was about function. It was about cutting well. And it evolved into something very artistic, which, I mean, I guess I do have that touch. I've never considered myself a very artistic person. I've always been very much a function over form type of person, but it brought out, I guess you could call it the artistic side of me in a way. So that has been primarily through collaboration with customers and just me wanting to put out something that looks beautiful too. And it wasn't trying to make a tool that performs as well as it looks. It's trying to make a tool that looks as well as it performs. And I think a lot of people misunderstood, you know, my intentions and what I really wanted to accomplish here. And what I want to accomplish with my tools is a blade that cuts just like with what you saw right here. Something that performs. Performance is the absolute key. Like, just having pretty tools, it doesn't mean anything. It means nothing to have pretty tools. Pretty tools that don't work are useless. And that's why I get a lot of people that ask me about Damascus. And let me be the first to say here, I understand, you know, from my point of view, Damascus is a very artistic steel. It is about the artistic touch. It's about form over function. Because what people call Damascus, that right there, that stuff is not superior in any way. And I don't care who makes it. You know, it's about being artistic. It's about artistic flair. It's about making something beautiful in its own way. It's about being, you know, creative in its own way. It is not about performance. And you will absolutely never get superior performance out of a blade like that over like a blade like mine that's like a high quality medium to high alloy steel that's machined and heat treated properly. They're in two different camps. One is about, function and performance and like the peak of what we know about metallurgy, and the other one's artistic. So they're just two very different things. I know a lot of people love Damascus, work with Damascus. That's awesome. That's your thing. I have a different thing. We can be different people. That's all right. The world takes all types. Trust me, I look at a lot of the Damascus blades and I think, wow, that's beautiful. That's really cool. Now, I know as somebody who, if I got into and I was going to buy a Damascus blade, me going into it, I know it's not a performance thing. I wouldn't use it. I wouldn't buy something that's Damascus to use it, because if I'm going to buy something for function, you don't buy something that's just for form. And I keep doing this with Damascus. I know a lot of people probably don't know this, and I've told a lot of customers this just one-on-one, but I put it in quotations because what we call Damascus, it's not Damascus. It's not. I like to call it fake Damascus because it's not real. It's a pattern welded steel is technically what it is. It's two dissimilar materials that are forge welded into unique patterns. And I would like to mention that real, true Damascus steel is still a great mystery to everyone in metallurgy. I know there has been metallurgists that have spent their entire careers trying to figure out what the secrets to true, real Syrian Damascus are, and they're just lost in history, and we don't know. There have been people trying to duplicate that. We just don't know. I think we even know what mine the ore came from because of the vanadium content. I believe it's 0.09% vanadium. And they found this mine that would have been dug up in the era, and so they've even taken ore from that mine and they've tried to get those beautiful patterns because it's not pattern welded. It's a solid, homogeneous piece of crucible steel. And the way that they processed it and heat treated it and forged it and everything, it made these beautiful carbide bands. It had nothing to do with the similar materials. It was what you'd call a crucible steel, an ingot steel, a homogeneous steel. We do know that it was relatively cold worked. We know probably the mine it came from. That's about really it. We don't have much to go on besides that. The secrets have been lost in history, hundreds of years ago. But what we call Damascus these days, I believe that became popular in the 1920s to simulate that look. And I remember reading a long time ago that it was popular in rather high-end shotgun barrels, that people were doing the pattern welded or steels like that. So that's the difference, kind of short story version of Damascus. Real Damascus versus Damascus. And, when people ask me if I make blades out of Damascus, I said, I would love to, but nobody knows how. If I ever figure out the secrets to making a real Damascus blade, a real crucible steel that develops those beautiful patterns, I will. Don't get me wrong, I will. But I am a function over form person. So until I figure out the real deal, I will not be making pattern welded stuff. I won't. Because you're not going to get the performance like you just saw here out of a piece of Damascus. You will get a blade that's chipping a lot. And I've had a lot of customers tell me about that, how they've tried Damascus chisels and they've got ones that were handmade and stuff like that, and they're very chippy. And, I tell them, that's just not what Damascus is about. It's not about performance. It's about art. So, long story short, my little rant about Damascus, and that's about it. So I'm torn between whether or not I actually want to sell these. I think it might be because I can do them relatively cheaply. I think it might be kind of a cool gift idea or something like that. And I've been thinking what I might do is do these in different lengths, or you can have like a long ones or the stubbies like this with short handles or long handles. And if I just sell the blade, I could sell the blade and you could do the scales and let people learn how to do, because this is scaled just like a knife handle. So, if you bought the blade, you could learn how to do knife scales, which that might be fun, since everybody that buys my tools, they're craftsmen. So it might be fun for you guys to learn how to put scales on a custom knife or something like that. Also, I was thinking about what I might do is, sell the blade for a relatively cheap price, just the finished blade, ready to go. And then have another, level up that's a kit where you get whatever blade you want. And these are all like different sizes too. Like you could get a 1 inch, a 4 inch, a 2 inch, or whatever at long or short, and have kits to where you can order a kit with whatever scales you want, but have them just be blanks, just square blanks. And you'd get like 2 stabilized blanks of whatever wood if you want curly maple or ebony or whatever. And in the kit would contain, maybe the 2 square blanks and a couple pieces of brass sheet and the blade. Not assembled or finished or put together. That way the customer could do it and have fun doing it and learn how to scale a knife. That might be a cool option, or, do that. And if you want the completed thing, I'd be more than happy to do it for you. It's not very time consuming. It's pretty cheap. So I thought that might be interesting. So I'll post about it and see what everybody thinks and see if everybody likes this little guy. I like it. I think it's cool. See the back of it? Looks like a little pocket knife. So reminds me of looking at a buck knife, kind of. I think it's cool. Anyway, I hope this was insightful a little bit and you get to see my process of testing a blade. And that's all I've got for today. So I hope everyone has a great day out here, and it's my wife's birthday, so I'm going to go cook dinner. Have a great day, everyone. See you next time.